The recent U.S. military strikes in the eastern Pacific Ocean, resulting in the deaths of 14 people aboard 4 alleged drug-trafficking vessels, mark a significant and controversial escalation of American counter-narcotics policy. This single-day operation, which brings the campaign's total fatalities to at least 57, has ignited fierce debate over international law, military authority, and regional stability. Summary of the incident and context. On Monday, the U.S. military conducted 3 lethal kinetic strikes on 4 vessels operating in international waters in the eastern Pacific. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth justified the action, stating the targets were known by our intelligence apparatus, transiting along known narco-trafficking routes, and carrying narcotics. The individuals killed were publicly labeled as narco-terrorists, a designation aimed at drawing a direct parallel between drug cartels and groups like Al-Qaeda. The strikes represent a geographical expansion of the campaign, which began weeks earlier in the Caribbean, and signals a determined yet highly aggressive shift in the administration's approach to disrupting drug flows from South America. Following the attacks, Mexican authorities reportedly took responsibility for coordinating the rescue of the single known survivor. Analysis, reasons, and underlying motives. The official justification for the lethal strikes rests on the claim that the U.S. is engaged in a non-international armed conflict with drug cartels. By classifying these criminal organizations as designated terrorist organizations and asserting that their operations constitute an armed attack against the American homeland due to the thousands of overdose deaths annually, the administration seeks to invoke wartime legal authorities. This strategy allows the Department of War to bypass standard law enforcement procedures, such as non-lethal interdiction by the Coast Guard, and deploy lethal military force, effectively treating low-level smugglers as enemy combatants. However, many analysts suggest deeper, geopolitical motives are at play. The campaign, which has been accompanied by a major U.S. spot military buildup in the Caribbean, including the deployment of a carrier strike group, is widely viewed as a means to increase military pressure on the government of Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro, whom the U.S. has targeted with narco-terrorism accusations. Furthermore, the operations in the Pacific target a major transit route for cocaine originating from key South American producers like Colombia and Ecuador, allowing the U.S. to assert dominant military presence across the entire Western Hemisphere's drug corridor. Consequences. Legal and geopolitical fallout. The consequences of these strikes are immediate and far-reaching. Legally, the operations are highly contentious. United Nations human rights experts and constitutional scholars have argued that using lethal force against alleged criminals in international waters without judicial process violates international law and may amount to extrajudicial executions. Critics point out that the administration has provided little public evidence to confirm the identity of those killed or the exact nature of their cargo, relying solely on intelligence assertions. Geopolitically, the strikes have strained crucial relationships. Despite Mexico assisting with the survivors' rescue, regional allies like Colombia have voiced sharp criticism, noting that previous strikes resulted in the deaths of alleged innocent fishermen. This heavy-handed military approach risks alienating the very partners necessary for long-term intelligence sharing and law enforcement efforts, potentially making it harder to capture high-value cartel leaders. The increased military presence and aggressive rhetoric have also exacerbated tensions with Venezuela, which views the U.S. actions as a prelude to military intervention or regime change. Prediction, escalation, and challenges. The campaign's trajectory appears set for escalation. Defense officials have publicly signaled that the next phase could involve lethal strikes on land-based targets affiliated with drug cartels. Such a move would drastically broaden the conflict, triggering an immediate constitutional crisis regarding the use of military force without congressional authorization and potentially violating the sovereignty of nations like Mexico or Venezuela. Domestically, expect continued legal challenges from lawmakers and rights groups demanding transparency and clear legal justification. Operationally, cartels will likely adapt their methods, shifting to smaller, more numerous vessels, altering routes, or integrating into legitimate maritime traffic to evade military detection, making future interdictions even more complex. Solutions and policy alternatives. Sustainable solutions require a move away from highly kinetic military action toward strategies focused on judicial process, financial disruption, and addressing root causes. Prioritize law enforcement interdiction. The U.S. must revert to and reinforce traditional maritime interdiction via the Coast Guard and Navy, focusing on non-lethal stops, boardings, and the capture and extradition of personnel. This upholds the rule of law and provides actionable intelligence. Target financial infrastructure, a concerted effort to dismantle the financial networks and money laundering operations of cartels, is far more effective than destroying low-level transit vessels. Address demand and supply at the source. A truly effective long-term policy requires increased foreign aid and economic support for South American nations to combat poverty that drives production, paired with stronger demand reduction and public health initiatives in the United States to reduce consumption. By focusing on judicial outcomes and economic pressure, the U.S. can combat the drug trade without undermining international legal norms or destabilizing critical alliances in the hemisphere.